All good sprinters have their eyes on the tape, or more accurately the electronic line, and Stirling's match against Heriot at Bridgehaugh this afternoon is no different. Good afternoon from me, Hugh MacLennan, and welcome to this third v fifth match in the FOSROC Super6 Sprint Series. The iconic setting of the Wallace Monument in the shadow of Stirling Castle, and here's hoping our offering is as good as the previous match this afternoon, the second of this week today, and the final match of the weekend, which finished just under an hour ago and confirmed Ayrshire Bulls and Watsonians in the top two places as they head for the top three split. And a reminder last night that Boroughmuir Bears won against the Southern Knights. Bruce Millar is joining me for this match, putting in an impressive double shift. Quick reflection on the previous match that you were commentating on there, Bruce, and the implications for the table.
As most of the Super6 Sprint Series matches have been, superbly entertaining game between the top two sides in the table there, Watsonians Rugby and the Ayrshire Bulls. Watsonians bossing the first half and looked in an almost unassailable position at half time, but the Ayrshire Bulls came back and just lacked a clinical edge. They could have won the game, and that has huge ramifications for the table. Watsonians Rugby with a 6-point advantage over the Bulls with only the two games remaining after the split, so certainly not done and dusted, but it will be difficult for the chasing pack, I think, now to rein Watsonians back in.
I should have said, of course, the final score there at Ayr was Ayrshire Bulls 26 and Watsonians 29. A remarkable kind of backs to the wall performance for Watsonians in a way that they didn't score at all in the second half, but there was a lot to be pleased about from that game, and I think this one it's a winner take all. And if we look at the last night's results, again the Southern Knights are just having a tough time. Boroughmuir Bears have come good. You know, they're playing a decent style of rugby. They know how to close out a game. This one could be very different. Stirling County know they have to win to make sure. Heriots are still just trying to creep up the table as far as they can.
Yes, as you say, winner takes all. Whoever wins this, if we take the potential complication of bonus points out of it, you imagine that whoever wins this will end up in the top three after the split. Whoever loses is in a bottom three, which it must feel like your season, or this particular part of the season is done. I don't like to use the term pointless, but you're playing then to be the best of the rest. So both of these sides will be absolutely desperate to finish above that cut-off point in the league.
So for anyone who hasn't got a handle on it yet, the top three play amongst themselves, the bottom three play amongst themselves in a series of games, and then we have first v second and fourth v fifth, and we're at that stage. We're into early June, Friday the 10th of June and Saturday the 11th.
Yes, it's probably added the number of games that we needed. There was something lacking from the main part of the season. I know there was intentions perhaps to play cross-border fixtures, etc., but the fact that didn't happen has just left them with not enough games for a season. And the addition of this sprint series, I think, has been fantastic. Dale and I spoke about it previously, that although it's essentially considered as a bit of a warm-up for the main season, I don't think the players or the coaches will be viewing it that way. They're always in the shop window, but anyway, it is a chance to just work on their structures, their understanding of their game plan, and develop that, and they've really come on over the last 5 weeks.
Okay, let's see what the two coaches have made of their formations today. We'll start with the home team, Stirling, and a new combination at loose head and tight head. John McKenna and Lewis Skinner, the Falkirk pair, starting together for the first time. Adam Sinclair there at lock is a former Heriots player. He's been injured, so he's back in. Strong back row there, and Sean Kennedy brings a wealth of experience from Glasgow Warriors to the scrum half position, where he plays with Ewan Cunningham at number 10. Back three, Fifita, Tangivi and Logan Trotter. Expect fireworks there. In the middle, Ben Salmon, who's moved in from the wing, and the rock steady Marcus Holden. An interesting set of replacements as well. There's 5 players coming back from injury there. Hiddleston, Williamson, Stephen Hamilton, Callum Cruikshank and Craig Robertson. So plenty of options for head coach Ben Cairns.
I think he will be particularly happy with the pro release as well this week. Very strong back three, Ratu Tagivi and Walter Fafita, just a dream pairing on the wings, and Logan Trotter has been absolutely superb at fullback since his switch from the wing.
2-man player of the match appearances, and that must be a bit of a nightmare for the Heriot's team lining up against them. Chris Keane comes in at loose head. Ewan MacLennan starts with number 17 on his back, just to avoid any confusion. He comes back in as well. Ian Wilson comes in at open side. Wilson, Keane and MacLennan are back after 3 weeks of injury. McAndrew and Houston are the two who will call the shots here, and an interesting back line for Heriot's as well. Sam Pecure, Niall Godsmark brings Sevens experience. Jack Blaine brings the Edinburgh experience, and Ross Jones, an exciting full back as well, and an interesting set of players on the bench. But possibly, looking at that on paper, Bruce, the Heriot's bench weaker or lighter than the Stirling bench.
I think that's a fair comment, and in the last 20 minutes or so, when they start making the changes, it will depend very much on how the game is looking at that stage. But in terms of the starting sides, I've been very impressed by Bruce Houston at standoff for Heriot's Rugby. He's really pulled the strings well. Whether he's got quite as strong a backline outside of him as Ewan Cunningham, only time will tell. And in the pack, you mentioned Chris Keane. He was injured, I think it was in the game against the Ayrshire Bulls, and Heriot's had the dominant scrum until Chris Keane went off, and it'll be interesting to see what difference he makes on his return today.
A dynamic hooker there, Michael Linus, as well. The two captains, Rory Leishman at number 8 for Heriot's, and Connor Gordon on the open side, number 7 for Stirling. So it's all to play for, possibly more to play for than Stirling than there is for Heriot. Do you think that will count for much?
I don't. Well, I think if Heriot's win this as well, they will end up in third. So I think they both got an equal amount, if you like, to play for. So I think the only thing that might make a difference today is home advantage, whether Stirling County are just a little bit stronger up there. Having said that, they lost in round 4, the shock of the sprint series so far, 25-26 against the Boroughmuir Bears, who've left their resurgence just a little bit too late.
Terrific game. We were at that game, and that was a really good game, as a lot of these Super 6 sprint series games have been. Slightly breezy, bit breezy at Bridgehaugh. Do you think that will have much of an impact? Sometimes it's difficult to read the wind at Bridgehaugh. It spins about a bit.
Yes, I think again we'll have to wait and see when the game starts how the two sides opt to play. I imagine if either side is affected by it, or if it changes their game plan at all, it might be Stirling County who might opt to. They'll know the ground better, they'll know the wind better, if you like, up there, and they may well opt to kick. I think Heriot's will come to run everything.
Well, if it's whistling in from the castle end, we know what will happen. It makes kicking at goal very difficult because there's a kind of crosswind effect down there. But pick out a couple of the key challenges, the key collisions that we're going to see. I think we're all expecting Fifita, Trotter and Tangivi to get a lot of the ball, and if they do, that's going to make life very difficult for the defence in Heriot's.
Yeah, potentially, yes. It depends what Stirling County do before that. They've had both of these wingers in combination a couple of weeks already, and didn't get them the ball in space. I think perhaps it maybe sounds unkind, but maybe a little bit one-dimensional sometimes through the forwards, and they haven't carried it or affected the opposition defence enough sometimes to leave the wingers space. So I think it will depend on that. Other key collisions. In the previous game, we perhaps should have picked out the clash at 9. We didn't. Today it will be interesting. Sean Kennedy, you said, huge amount of experience that he brings to Stirling County, but Murdo McAndrew, a very good player himself, and Ewan Cunningham, still just 19 years old, but has really risen to the challenge. But he's up against Bruce Houston, who for me has been exceptional in the games I've watched. This
is another thing. You guys like Niall Godsmark then, who's been around the block in the sevens and all the rest of it, so they know how to indulge in a bit of game management here and there as Heriot's come out.
Indeed, yeah. Godsmark started the season at 13. He shifted in a place and looks very comfortable in this centre pairing with Robert Kay, and he's also combined well with Sam Pecure out there on the wing. I think we'll have played a bit together. Scotland 7's very different, obviously, in the 15s game, but they seem to have a bit of an understanding as well.
And there's a stack of players, of course, in both teams. Robert Kay's had a Player of the Match award. Logan Trotter had 2 consecutive awards. The team's in their familiar colours, the blue and white hoops on our left as we watch the match. They'll be defending the castle, as it were. That's Heriot's. And our referee today is David Sutherland, who will be taking charge. Just tucking himself in, making sure he's got all the gear and that we can hear him.
Very well, you.
All the pleasantries are being exchanged in the way they should be.
The refereeing has been excellent. The communication between the referees and the players good as well. It's been and it always helps, I think. That
and
way
Guy,
as well.
a few yellow cards. I keep saying. I think the referees are to be commended for and the players for the way they're approaching it and responding to that as well. So Heriot's have it. They're all good to go. And it's with Bruce Houston. Checking with the captains, and we'll get some sort of indication, I think, in the early stages of the game, just what influence the breeze will or won't have and who will make the most of it. And the pitch firm, dry, which is a blessing, so no excuses for poor handling. And as we said, it's all to play for. First real sense of possession from Stirling, Sean Kennedy. Good drive up the middle. Kennedy again trying to, he will bring his backs into play as soon as he can, and it's all about the delivery of the ball. The forwards have to get it. You can't do anything without the ball. Skinner on his first burst. We'll see what the wind does to this for Kennedy. Didn't seem to hold up too much, but the first positive move from Ross Jones. McAndrew. This time Heriots are going to spin the ball, taking it across to the stand side.
Stop White! Stop White!
And this time kicking for territory. Well, it's a bit slack, so a bit careless, but both teams feeling their way understandably in the opening 2 minutes.
I think that's just exactly what they're doing. Good to see Benedict Grant, I think his first involvement with Stirling County, the big Mar number 8, took it from the kick-off in a great charge and then got his hands on it just 30 seconds or so later from a little tip on from one of his teammates. A good early start for him.
Loves the ball in hand. There's only one route to take, the shortest possible line usually. McAndrew spins it out, taken in by Kay. He thought better of releasing it. Both sets of forwards just teeing themselves up in the early stages. Penalty advantage coming to Heriots. They have options here, they'll give it a go. They've nothing to lose, chip through, and that will be taken all the way back. So something out of nothing, a good opportunity here. 3 minutes. You want to go on the board or you want to go down the line?
Well, I'm going to wait and see what they do. I'll pick wrong. I would probably take the points, but I imagine they might go for the corner. Just given the importance of the win, it looks like they're going to go for the corner. But Stirling County defence just a little bit over-eager. I think it was Adam Sinclair, probably the guilty party, came up just a little bit too quickly. And gave
they
away
tended
the penalty.
to do that against Barramura Bears. It was quite. I mean, they were blitzing them all the time, and it was just this over-eagerness cost them some penalties, and it was an issue that they needed to deal with.
Where in contrast, in the previous game, you saw Watsonians that maybe didn't come up quite so quickly, and they just placed more importance on that staying connected.
The first ball for Linus, well taken. Let's see where they take this now. Well, that's a novelty. It's not the hooker taking it on. It's Ian Wilson, who's keen to make his mark. Not that far away. He trundles to try to go over the top. They're on the line, Stirling. Big shouts for short, the referee says. You'd want to convert this into a score if you can stay down here, but Stirling's defence is good, robust. They have to be careful. Now it spins wide. The winger comes in. Jack Blaine. Powerful figure. Now there's space. Dodging inwards. Stirling are thin on the far side. They're now lining up to take them on. Chris Keane.
He has moving. You're placing the ball into him.
Good communication from the referee, keeping them both sides honest. Looking for the short ball. Big charge. MacLennan. And again, they're just thumping Stirling, but Stirling standing firm. Going left. Change of tack. Jamie Campbell. We almost lost it. Good defence from Stirling. Spinning it wide. Oh, a dangerous ball. That looped pass. That's one guy you don't want to be trying looping it over. I mean, he's about 18 feet tall. You can't loop a ball over him from that range.
It was great defence by Stirling County because they kept having to reorganise themselves, and they did it tremendously well there. Kept Heriot's out. Maybe could have mixed things up just a little bit better, Heriot's. But either way, Stirling County will have taken confidence from that defensive set.
Well, risk and reward for the pass, but I've interviewed Ratu, and I'm 6 foot, and I needed a box to stand on. He is enormous. He's enormous.
You see Benedict Grant again. We mentioned him carrying the ball. He was prominent in the defensive sets as well.
All action. Lots of jackets around at Bridgehaugh, so it's not the warmest day. Here they come again, Heriot's plenty of ambition. They've spent most of their time up here. They'll want to convert this pressure into points. Short ball. Again, 5 metres out. Slower this time. Again, a looped pass out to the wing. And this time he's in. This time he's in. In fact, that was made to look very easy. Too easy at the end. Too easy at the end for Jack Blaine. It's a good score to get them on the board.
That's a good score there, yes. They just played a little bit quicker than the Stirling County defence could get themselves organised. You said in commentary there that it was a little bit slower, but it was still faster than the Stirling County defence could fold round the corner and get themselves set, and in the end it made it look very easy for Blaine there.
Just maybe a question there about the final defence there, whether the final tackle, he seemed to, I thought there was 2 or 3 players coming over who would have dealt with him and forced him into touch, but it was remarkably easy for him to dot the ball down. It
was indeed, yeah. I'd like to see that again. We'll perhaps get another look at the score.
We'll have a look at the conversion first, but I was genuinely surprised there. I thought the chance had gone, that he was just missing it, but there you go. It's all about the timing and the execution. So 5 points to 0. Heriot's lead. Chance for 2 more. Bruce Houston. He's pretty much Mr. Dependable. But let's see what the wind's doing at Bridgehaugh. Yeah, it did turn. He tried to dress it so the wind is clearly in Heriot's favour, and he tried to carry it in with it. But this is a look. Talk us through this now, Bruce, and we'll see how it's finished.
Yeah, so we'll just see if you're right there. The forwards are set, but they realised the space was wider and threw it out there, and he actually cut back inside. Yes, is that Tagivi there?
Tagivi was the final player
who just
who
seemed to wait and let him come to him, where he probably had to go towards Blaine and hit him harder. And because I say Blaine even made it easy for him by cutting back in field.
There's the wind for you. That's come all the way back. I think that went 4.5 yards, I think. Just a bit out of sorts. Well, it almost came back over his head, unfortunately, but that's a mistake. Stirling not quite, although that was a good defensive set. They'll be disappointed to have conceded the try and then a further mistake off the kickoff.
Yeah, just compounds that, doesn't it? And they just haven't really settled into this game yet. It's still only 9 minutes old.
But Heriot's well worth their 5 points. They've spent most of their time in the Stirling 22. Looking pretty solid. They've got a nudge on. Bit untidy coming out, didn't complete. It looked like they had a nudge on there, but it didn't quite come back quick enough.
Interestingly, Ian Wilson with the number 7 jersey on,
Yeah.
backing down at number 8. He's got plenty of experience there. Rory Leishman, the captain, listed at number 8, but he over the last 3 games, he started in the second row. He's then moved to blindside flank, and today finds himself at number 8, but obviously not quite as comfortable at the base of the scrum as Ian Wilson.
They do that to test the commentators for no other reason whatsoever.
Well, it's only taken us 10 minutes.
But they keep changing it.
Set.
Second goal. McAndrew a bit quicker. I think he just lost sight of it the last time at the back of the scrum. Here they go down the far side from the camera on the stand side at Bridgehaugh. Turning, Rory Leishman spinning. Out it comes. And they're using MacLennan, as they often do, as the target for the first receiver. Godsmark, easy to pick out. That's a good short pop pass. There's a chance here again on this side. They seem to be targeting this side, Heriots, but they've spilled it. More decisive with their tackling this time, Stirling, and they have to move the ball out now. They're using Grant to try and create the space. No doubt Kennedy might fancy lifting it out, but he's needing a bit more room.
Back foot, don't play the 9. 8, stay there. Don't play him in. Use, please, 9. Back foot.
This time he'll hoof it. That's a decent execution. Might have wanted a bit more. I'm no doubt about it. He wanted a bit more distance on it than that, but they're safely out.
Well, I think the wind will have played a part in the lack of distance he got there. If we go back to the restart kick that just about came back over their head, I think he was probably just going for safety rather than distance there.
Yeah, you can see the linesman's flag there, the assistant referee. It's really ripping there, quite a stiff breeze, but hopefully that'll blow any showers that are thinking of arriving straight through.
8 and the 5.
They have a decent rumble on here again.
Stopped once.
They're using Ian Wilson,
Use 9.
the ball carrier, out to MacAndrew. Inside to Robert K. Houston. Oh, this time they've just gone over the ball.
First arriving player.
Connor Gordon.
Yeah.
9.
They'll be disappointed with that because again their possession in there is pretty good, but again it's the arrival. And then the referee's shrill blast of the whistle comes to some relief for Stirling.
It's been a real feature of their approach to the game in this sprint series. Stirling County have won, I don't know, I've not counted, but I imagine just about as many turnover penalties as anybody. Their approach is obviously to put somebody in every possible breakdown that they can, and if they don't win the ball or win the penalty, they'll at least slow down the opposition possession, force them to commit more numbers, and an important turnover there.
And it is increasingly clear that the stiff breeze is very much in Heriot's favour here, and Logan Trotter there gave it an almighty thump, but he didn't get that far with it, so that will dictate how Stirling play out of defence. But meantime, they've got Heriots to deal with at the stand side.
Back foot.
Good delivery. Again, it's MacLennan. Thumping challenge. It takes a lot to get him down.
Backwards.
That's a quick ball, but it worked. Fullback Jones.
Off the foot. Play on. Play on.
This
red
time
ball.
they've robbed him again. It's that turnover. 2 in quick succession. And again, they're going to have to be careful how they move the ball from this area of the field because they know the wind is
Back.
stiff breeze.
Stay red.
This time trying to keep it infield. There's a better kick, splitting the defenders, but Houston's got plenty of time to pick his spot.
13 on onside, keep that mark. Stop red, onside.
There's the evidence of the
Play, all onside.
need to keep the ball low, but that might be a costly. Well, that's certainly a costly. Well, it's worked for him. Yeah, it has worked.
Like you, yes, I thought he'd kicked that one out on the full.
Yeah, I thought that had gone. Just the camera angle seemed to be carrying it, but that's clever use of the space.
Yes, you can see that Heriots have decided sensibly so with the wind at their backs. They'll just play territory and rather here where they could have counter-attacked up the middle. They had a bit of space to decide, no, we'll kick. And I don't think he caught that one quite as he meant to.
Yeah.
But it's worked out well for him.
So, 15 minutes on the clock.
Ball!
Stirling 0, Heriots 5. Thanks to the 7th minute try by Jack Blaine. Mostly Heriots' pressure and possession. Whether they'll be happy with just the one score at this stage remains to be seen. Oh, that's on the line, and that's out. Again, it's the wind.
You got to clearly come from that back foot, okay?
The referee just... it's almost like coaching. I like their style. It's not coaching, obviously, per se, but they're certainly coaching the players and the rules.
Essentially it is, and I think that's why we've had so few penalties in many of the games. The referee's giving them clear instructions, and rather than just waiting on an infringement and penalising it, he's giving clear instructions.
McAndrew.
Yeah, you have penalty advantage.
Another penalty advantage, so they can afford to have a go. Key gets dumped in midfield, so they can come back.
You have a number, Bob. Okay. Contact in the air from red. Penalty, it's on the 15.
It's identified by Bob Nevins, who's the assistant referee.
Contact in the air at the line out. Here's
on the near side.
So contact in the air and go for the ball. Okay,
so another interesting choice, and I would imagine an easy choice to go down to the corner. So the importance now is not to overcook it.
I think they've set their stall out, that's what they're going to do, and it's always interesting to try and guess how many points in the wind, how many points do Heriots feel they need to get.
Yeah, to be sure.
To be sure when they turn round at half time.
Well, that's an interesting point. We'll see how they play it.
Ball!
So this time it might come back to the hooker, but no, they have a different approach. Oh, break it through. He's gone all the way through. It's Ian Wilson. Absolutely. Well, you see, it's become so predictable that if somebody does something different, there's a big hole. And that's what he did. He spotted there was a hole there, and everyone was lining up on this side. They sucked him in, and he looked over, cleverly looked over, and he saw the huge gap, and off he went.
Heads up rugby, and it's not sticking to plan A, which was the driving line out, and they could have kept driving there. It was on the front foot, but he decided. I mean, the Stirling County Mall defence there, not great, it has to be said, and it kind of broke off and opened up the space for them. And interesting, you said in commentary that Ian Wilson stands as what I would call the +1 in the line out for those line outs, and as a hooker comes round, normally the hooker would be given the ball, but obviously they think that Ian Wilson is the man that should be in control of the ball there.
Well, it's hard to argue with that on the basis of what he did there. Yeah. So, second score, 10 points to the good. Chance for 2 more. Let's see if Bruce Houston has got a handle on the wind. He's a bit nearer the centre of the field, so in theory he won't have to hang it up quite so high and let the wind take it through the posts. Good look at it by both assistant referees, and a successful completion there for Bruce Houston, and you can see how he measured his approach to that one and just took a little bit off it, and it still drifted. But a good kick. 2 more points. Stirling County 0, Heriots 12. Fair reflection on the play, Bruce?
I don't think you can argue with that. Heriots they've not done an awful lot for their scores either. On both occasions, I think we've probably been a little bit critical of the Stirling County defence. The first one, Ratu Tagivi maybe could have made a better tackle on Jack Blaine, and then Ed Wilson all too easy from the back of them all there.
Yeah, he just had a look and he had seen the shattered defence, and that was it. So Stirling will be disappointed with their defence. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And the question now is, as we reflected earlier, how many more tries do Heriots need to think that they can approach the second half in some sense of comfort? They're running this one from the back. Godsmark sends it out. More use of the wind. Here we go. Straight line. Boof. Not quite. But same intent. Kennedy sniping.
No, not the ball too. I know you weren't.
Nice exchange there from between the referee and an unidentified player. Out the back door, that was forward surely, but they've made the most of it. It looked forward, but here he comes again, the number 8. He's a key figure now when the go-to comes. Kennedy, first real attack from Stirling. Quick defence there from the fullback Jones. He was up like a flash, but Stirling still have it. Kennedy looks for a target. He's got one of his bigger ones available. Tangivi does his best. He's put to ground. Now, Heriots will be fully aware of the threat posed by Tangivi and Fifita. Stirling's problem is they haven't really had the ball to them. Benedict Grant, off he goes again. Quick ball off the ground to James Powell.
No.
Into the 22, Kennedy. Out it comes. Danger for Heriots. Danger, danger.
Advantage red, knock on blue.
Just a knock on there. The tackle was good enough to disrupt the delivery of the ball. Scrum advantage only, so they need to play. There's the potent attack from the wings, both wingers coming into play, so they're beginning to get a wee bit of rhythm going here.
Well, it's interesting because that came from a Heriot's kick.
Yep.
And when you're playing into the wind, it focuses your mind, if that's the right term. You've only really got one option. You can't kick, so you just have to play in the forwards initially, combining well Adam Sinclair, Benedict Grant, getting them on the front foot, and then they went a bit wider. And I was almost expecting a try. I was going to say, how on earth do you stop a man like Fifita? I was fully expecting them to go over, and they did well to stop him. Yeah.
You contrast that with the other end, where virtually the same thing happened. You would have said both cases should have led to tries, but that one didn't. Fair play to the cameraman behind the line who was juggling two cameras swinging around his neck there, trying to capture the action as well.
And going back to the kick that Stirling County played from, it was interesting to see Heriots go wide, because again, as the receiving team, when you're playing into that wind, you obviously expect the opposition to kick to you. So Stirling County had lots of guys in the backfield, so Heriots felt, well, there's no point kicking to them now. They went wide to pull the defenders up into the front line, and then opted to kick. I mean, they've still ended up close to their own goal line, but good thinking by Heriots.
So it's taken them the best part of 20 minutes to get here, to get to the other end of the pitch. In fact, more than 20 minutes. So they'll want to get some sort of return from it. So I would keep my eye on Mr. Grant at number 8, who must be hot favourite to go on a charge from this range. And woe betide anyone who tries to get A, the ball, and B, in his way.
Another option is a winger just running off the scrum here as well, if you want to keep it tight. I think you're right. I think Grant will pick and go.
Yeah, you could see him reaching out for the ball before Sean Kennedy. There he goes. Oh, he's delivered it though, and it's a poor pass, as to be said. But let's see. Very often these broken bits of play lead to something unintended. Kennedy's in there. Off he goes himself. He's got support. He sensed the gap, held the pass. Again, they've got men over here. Grant again reaches over to try and keep the ball in play. There's a penalty advantage coming. He sucked the defenders in, so they can have a go. Nothing to lose. Kennedy goes on his own, tries the pass round the corner. The ball's loose, and we have, I think he's going to give that score, because everybody stopped apart from Ratu Tungivi.
Let me have a conversation.
I'm just listening to the referee. I think we need to listen to this.
I think it's worth listening to the referee now. Well, fair play. And you can see there the player who kicked the ball through was onside, and Ratu followed it up, and we can't argue with that.
You can't. No, the little break by Sean Kennedy. The pass wasn't great. It was James Pow there that was the intended recipient, and you don't often see a big second row kicking the ball through for the winner.
But, you do. They do it all the time. They do it all the time. They tell you, you know. And he just, it was a clever pass from Sean round the back. Didn't quite go to hand, but they made the most of it. But that's I mean, professional players, these guys, the ones involved, they play to the whistle. That's another thing. Lesson learned there.
And that came from the scrum. Benedict Grant, as we predicted, picking up, but didn't quite go to plan. They had the big winger Walter Fafita lurking. I suspect he was going to run off Grant, but the ball went behind him, and but they managed to recover the situation. Somewhat fortuitous, the try in the end, but it does have them back in this game.
And the added benefit was an easy conversion in front of the post, so win-win for Stirling as we hit 25 minutes. Stirling are on the board, 7 points. Heriot's lead, however, by 5 points. They have 12. So Stirling will be happy to be on the board against the wind. That for sure is going to be, and that was their first attack, so they converted it into something decent. That's maybe a bit, slapped down.
And I've said before, in games involving Stirling County, they're sometimes, for my liking anyway, they're too happy to play the ball and go through phases in their own 22. I would rather that was just a phase that Grant could have carried that from the kick-off and well, kick it. We've already said the difficulties of, or spoken about the difficulties of kicking into that wind, but you see that could have gone horribly wrong for County there.
Yeah, they need to make territory all the time, and there's more evidence. You know, and Logan Trotter's got a big boot when he gives it welly, but that really didn't go too far. But again, it's safety first. You want to get the ball out and recycle. Yeah, the kids are having a ball behind the try line. Stirling, great the way they bring everyone to the games these days. Kennedy to Grant. And off it goes. Trotter. Tungivi again. He looks in the mood. He's not had that much rugby.
Knock on, advantage White, scrum advantage.
They've lost it though. He'll take the first spilling.
See what Sean Kennedy brings to you at 9. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, Stirling County would have, as they're playing out of their 22, they would just hit a pod of forwards, ask them to carry, do the same again, ask them to carry. Where Sean Kenny's much more active round there. He went behind a runner to somebody else. Yes, but even his passes, it just changes the picture for the defence. He had a runner coming off him, he gave it to somebody behind him, and then he went the other way. He just mixes things up, which I think will bring another dimension to Stirling County's game.
He's also brought a new haircut to the table, I think. Looking very sharp, go faster.
Can't keep using him as a decoy.
The referee saying not to use him, not to use the referee as a decoy. We're saying how much he's mixing the game up. That's taking it to a whole new dimension. Use the referee as well.
Yeah, that's a scrum half thing, though. You know, the first thing you do is use the referee as a decoy. So a bit of running repairs here. But it's been a good open game again, and again the referee's playing his part in keeping it going. There's been very little in terms of breakdowns, and even the reset scrums have been pretty good. Managed to deliver them.
Referee has been excellent, and on both sides trying to play rugby. It's clearly difficult for Stirling County in this first half, but when they've had opportunities, they're actually making good ground through the forwards and showing a willingness to play it through the backs.
Nice to see players with the grass up over their boots as well. Just like the old days.
Crouch. Bind.
That's what we get for saying anything about scrums being good.
I'll teach us, yes.
Not had issues, lads. Let's not start having them.
Heriots just need to be secure here. I was going to say, talk about Chris Keane, we mentioned him at the start, can be a very destructive scrummager. He doesn't need to be here particularly just get the ball back, but I think he again will add something to that Heriots pack today.
Bind. Set.
Pretty solid this time. Out it comes. Dummy runners, Godsmark spins it long and they got the bounce. Worked well. Over the top. Tangivi comes across from the other wing. Good defensive read from him.
Ball is there. You're on the body. You're on the body for me.
John Kennedy looking for Mr. Grant to
Lift his foot. Yeah.
decides to pass up on the opportunity of the ball and just lend his weight to the drive, and this time Kennedy will put it up and out if he can. That's a better execution this time.
That's a good kick because he's quite far infield.
Yep.
And he's got a bit more distance on it this time. With only 10 minutes to half time, that I think Stirling County will be happier with the scoreline than Heriots now.
For sure, especially after you getting 2 tries ahead, you would want to roll on from that, whereas Stirling have played themselves back into it. They just need to be careful because Heriots have shown they've got the runners and they've got the power up front as well. McAndrew, nice little pass inside to Robert Kay.
First man.
And again they've spilled it, or they've been robbed. And there's runners here. Trotter is on the move. And you can sense that the Stirling crowd, just there's that buzz as soon as he gets the ball. He's got it into Tangivi. More danger for Heriots. They've made 2/3 of the field in 2 passes. And again, it's desperate defence for Heriots. Kennedy, he's off on his own. Kennedy, he fancied it and he spilled it though. It's gone forward, has it? No, referee's happy. Kennedy again. Oh, from close in, there was never going to be any doubt about that. And this time it's Lewis Skinner. Trundles over, and if they were happy before that, Bruce, they are delighted with this now, going in 12-12 so far.
They absolutely will be, and at the end, like the last try, it ended up a little bit messy. But a fantastic try, almost end to end. They got the ball to Logan Trotter, and he has been in superb form this season. Raced away up the stand side touchline, and then it was the desire from County to get there and support, keep the ball alive. They weren't looking for a breakdown and to slow it down and just keep possession. They went for the kill, if you like.
Yeah, and Kennedy's decision making when he got into that position where he took the right options, and then your man Skinner here was right on cue, and again they've got near the post, so you would think that from here Marcus Holden could do the business, but this is a tricky spot to kick from on the Stirling pitch. See the trees moving. Yeah. Wide. And that just dropped over the goal line. It didn't go far, and he gave it a decent hit. So there's the measure, and that's, as I said, from the castle end. It's always tricky from that spot in the field. So 32 minutes in, Stirling 12, Heriots 12. As you said earlier, Bruce, Stirling will be the happier.
Absolutely, yes. They have played really well into the wind. It's not to say Heriots won't turn around and do exactly the same, but the Stirling County coaching staff will be really happy with what they've seen.
There has been a wee bit of rhythm to their play when they have the ball up in the 22. They know what they're doing with it, and that's a better kick as well. I think they've got the measure of the win now. They're definitely playing it very, very cleverly. Quick throw. Heriots are on the move. They'll be stung into action. Godsmark goes early, leaves it to the winger Jack Blaine, the first try scorer. McAndrew again. They have men here on the far side, but the ample bulk of Tangivi is in the way. There's no way through there. Right in front of their own fans. Stirling have done it again. It's daylight robbery all the time. They really are. They're not over-committing men, but when they go in, they've got one thing in their mind, and their larceny has been good.
Angus Fraser, the man there, the hooker. They pick their moments very, very well. I think for me they're the best side in the competition at the breakdown in terms of that facet of it, the winning turnovers. And Heriot, you can see what they're doing from the line out. They go wide quickly where they're finding a bit of space, but it's also allowing them to get into their attack shape for coming back, but just couldn't go through the phases there, because when they have done that, you can see the Stirling County defence has been under a bit of stress, starting to lose shape, but Heriot's unable to do that in the last 15 minutes or so.
I suspect that was moved by the wind, but the assistant referee and the referee are happy enough with it. Can't be easy delivering the ball on a day like this. Dummy runners using the width of the field. Godsmark.
No, 8. Back. You must come from our own side. Thank you. Yeah, you're good. You're all good.
Grant behaving himself, doing what he's told. And then he makes his presence felt all the time. He must be an absolute menace to play against. There he is again. He's having to go back all the time.
He's just a bundle of energy.
Yeah. Trotter. Talking of bundles of energy. That's what you want from your number 8 though. Protection. All sorts of all action.
Tackle.
Play around the field. He covers every blade of the pitch. Kennedy. Oh, an attempted interception there. It didn't come off. The big man's away. Fifita. It's all about the timing of the pass, and he's done it beautifully, and he's given it to Marcus Holden. And that was all about the execution and the timing of the last pass. And again, decision making. Superb from Stirling.
It was, but there's the risk of racing out. Ian Wilson come racing out the line, tried to go for the intercept, and that just leaves a huge gap where he was. Still a massive amount of work to be done. Fifita went through, as you would expect from an international player, timed the pass perfectly. The support there from the co-captain, Marcus Holden. And Stirling County, trailed by 12, come right back into this, but I think Ian Wilson will be ruining his defensive decision making there. Yeah,
it's one of these ones that either comes off or it doesn't, and if it doesn't, this is what happens. And Holden won't have many easier run-ins than that.
That came from a couple of minutes ago though. Heriot's Rugby opting to play inside their half, whereas 10 or 15 minutes ago they would have just kicked for a corner.
Yeah, they've changed it for some.
Well, I presume the scoreboard pressure has forced them to change it. They felt comfortable just pushing Stirling County back and playing there and just building up a scoreboard lead. And suddenly, when they found themselves all square at 12, I'm not saying they panicked, but they've changed their game plan. And a few minutes later, they've been caught out.
Now, I've seen a lot of these. This is a really, really difficult kick. He's aiming well to the left of the castle. But not see? But not that far left. I know what he was trying to do. He was trying to let the ball drift on the wind so it would come over the posts, and that was a really, really difficult kick. I don't envy him from that. I don't think he caught it right in the first place, but he'll be disappointed with that one. But anyway, we have Stirling on 17, Heriot's on 12. Different game.
Completely different game now, and it'll be interesting to see what Heriot's try and do in the last 3 minutes of this one. Do they try and force it a little bit? They've got to get their hands on the ball first. They'll kick this one, as they have done every time, straight to Benedict Grant for some reason.
Yeah, he's like a
I'm
magnet.
not sure I would have picked him out.
And here he comes. Takes 3 guys with him. Job done. And Heriot's just standing off. They know it's going to be difficult to execute this.
Carried back by Red.
So he's not inside. Ian Wilson. That almost drifted away from him. You see, he had to reach out for it. Difficult ball to take. Sadak.
Since the Heriots will be absolutely desperate to get themselves another score before half-time.
The danger of this is that Stirling run it back at him through this guy. The road runner, off he goes. Delivers it, but he's lost it. He might have been better just holding on to that one. But Stirling have it. You know who? Grant sets it up for Kennedy, has a look. He's got options, but the advantage is over, so they have to carry on now. Up it goes. He's looking for a runner again. He's looking for Trotter. That's well taken. Single-handed there. Tangivi's all over him, though. Scrags him to the ground. They have to try again. This is a tough gig for Heriots at the moment because Stirling are just squeezing them all the time. They're giving them no time at all. Look at that.
Not out, back foot. Use.
They're going to go down the tight side on the stand side there.
No, you're not back foot though. You're not back foot. No, it's not. No.
Last minute of regular time. Now this is a chance. Here he comes again, Grant. Loping forward, keeps his arms out so he gets the pass away. Great chance here. Another chance. This is Fifita. He's got he's got only one way to. Oh, he overstepped the mark. Overstepped the mark. He was reading his name in the papers there. You could see he had it. He had the line at his mercy. Maybe should have passed somewhere here.
I think he probably should have. He'll be disappointed that he was kind of caught in 2 minds there. I think he thought he was going to go over the top, and he'll be disappointed. An international winger putting his foot in touch quite so close to the line.
But that is the danger for any team playing against Stirling. If you have Fifita on one side, you've got Tangivi on the other, and you've got Logan Trotter blazing up the middle. Wow.
We picked the 3 of them at the start, and it must be an absolute nightmare, and they had acres of space to run into.
Yeah, that was a gimme. That was a chance gone.
It really was.
So Heriots have to work their way all the way out again, and this time they've settled just to get rid of it and call it quits and go in, regroup, reassess the position. They're going in quickly. I'm not surprised because they'll want to analyse a lot of that, Bruce, and see where the change let them down, because it's taking them from a position of great authority to half-time where they go in arrears. It's Stirling County 17, Heriots 12.
I think Heriots will be at a loss as to how on earth they've managed to go in trailing at half-time, but they never really got control of the game, bar the first 10 or 15 minutes, and you thought they were going to build up quite a sizable lead here, but Stirling County came back. We spoke about how playing into the wind, it really forces your hand. You can only play one way, and they have done it very, very well, and in the end, I think when they got to about 12 all, it actually forced Heriots to change their approach to the game, which played into Stirling County's hands, and I think we said at 12-0 Heriots were deserving of their lead. I think we've got to pay Stirling County the same compliment at half-time and say they deserve their lead at this stage.
Well, let's see how they did that, because there was a stage in the early minutes of the game, the first quarter particularly, where you thought, Heriots have got this, they've got the conditions, they've got the wind, and they got a surprisingly easy first score.
Yes, you picked this in commentary, and Blaine even cut back inside and run into Tangivi, and yet I think he needed to move towards him. We're going to get another look at it. I think he needed to be more aggressive here. We'll see it one more time as the ball came out. I mean, it's
just there.
Difficult. Yes, there. He had to go to him and drive him, I think, into. And
he went maybe too high. Yes, he just slipped upwards. Yeah. So they'll be disappointed with that. But Heriots were in control, and they had the bulk of the possession. This was a bit of opportunism from Ian Wilson, who saw the gap. He saw the defence had disintegrated, and he made the most of it.
That was good. as I said at the time, that's just good heads-up rugby. Plan A was to drive that over, but he's a good enough player to realise that actually the better option was to break away. The Stirling County Mall defence had gone round to the left, the gap had opened up in front of him, and he took the opportunity well, and at this stage he felt that Heriot's were going to build up a fairly sizable lead.
Yeah, and you would have thought with the wind and everything, but then, you know, Sean Kennedy intervened. There was a bit of luck about that, perhaps the pass didn't come off, but they played the whistle, they carried on, they got the score.
That was lucky, but I say they're still asking questions. Sean Kennedy has done every time he's had the ball in this half, and yes, that was not the intention, but when the ball goes loose, anything can happen. In the second row, James Pow kicks that one through for his winger to score.
I'm sure he will. Sean Kennedy will claim it was his intention that he just dropped the ball. It was a clever little pass round the back, and they made it the conversion easy, because as we're to see later, it wasn't that easy. But then, you know, they came back again, and all of a sudden it's a different game.
Yes, and this one started away back at the other end,
yep.
And I think I mentioned at the time the hard work to support and get organised and to try and finish this off. And you've got a tight head prop that's worked his way end to end.
He's followed the play.
Scoring pass, yes.
Yeah, and they had to, as you say, work it. They had to contrive the whole thing. But it was all about Sean Kennedy's decision making. He looked one way, looked the other, saw this option, and over he went. And that was Lewis Skinner with the second try. And all of a sudden, as I said, it was a different game, 12-12. And then Stirling produced this.
Yes, they produced it. They were helped hugely by Ian Wilson's decision. He's scored one and he's essentially given one away, I think, there by racing out the line. You're better just to stay in it, and I'm not sure. I don't think the intercept was ever really on here. But still, good work.
Yeah, he wasn't far away from it, but he was far enough
away,
enough to miss it. But then when you look at this, I mean, Fafita, he's got Holden here and he's got Trotter as well. Yeah.
Yes, great support play, and they still had to finish it. He timed his pass nicely. You know, he could have been greedy and tried to go himself,
which is more than he did in a later case. But
quite.
There you go. He's created that one, and he's turned the game around with a few other notables, including Mr. Grant at number 8 and Sean Kennedy at number 9, having good games. So it's half time. Stirling County 17, Heriot's Rugby. Bruce and I are going to take a break, but we're going to pay a visit to Milbury in Ayrshire to speak to the Ayrshire Bulls head coach Peter Horn about this, his first season in sole charge of the team after he took over from Pat MacArthur at the tail end of last year. And we've also been speaking to Scotland's under-20 standoff Christian Townsend about his second year with the Bulls, and he's been telling us how playing in the FOSROC Super6 has been supporting his development as a player.
I've loved my time here. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. We've got a great club, really good support staff, and I'm really lucky. Like the players that we've got such an aspirational, committed group. You know, the guys are just desperate to turn up, enjoy themselves, and get better, which is it's all you can ask for as a coach. So I've loved working with a group of players, and like you said, we've been lucky enough that we've had a little bit of success, but it's off the back of real hard work. It's been a big development journey for me. Yeah, I think in the past all my experience was as an assistant coach, where I wasn't, I'd maybe be dropping in a couple of nights a week, but I wouldn't have a massive influence on selection and things. It was very much, I'd be in and trying to be upbeat and bring a bit of energy, do some drills and things, but you could kind of be mates with all the boys, and it was easier. It was a different dynamic, whereas now it's a lot more professional. I think it's still vitally important that you build really good relationships with the guys, and I like to think that that's something that I've done, but it's great just having a lot more time to really focus on building a culture, on trying to work hard as a coach to improve yourself, to take learnings from really reflect on what's gone well, what's not going well, get feedback, and yeah, I've loved it. That's something that always has been really close to my heart, bringing through the young Scottish fellas, and it was the reason I got into coaching in the first place. I started doing a fair bit with Hawks years ago, and yeah, I loved seeing good young Scottish boys coming through and doing well. Like Ross Thompson's a prime example. We got him straight out of school and done a bit of work with him down at Hawks for a couple of seasons, and it's great to see him now kicking on and doing so well. And yeah, I've been absolutely loving it. I've got no doubt that there's some guys in this group here that are going to go on to have some, brilliant, really good futures in the pro game. And you know, again, like I've got no doubt there'll be some of them pulling on Scotland jerseys, and that'll be really cool to know that you've played, like, albeit a very small part in their journey, but you know, you've been there and given them a little bit of support. I think it's been a brilliant tool. Like already you'll see the quality of the games is getting better. Like we said, the amount of analysis, we're trying to train, you know, as close to professional intensity as we can. We've got a lot of guys coming down from the pro game to play, to train with us, you know, academy guys, and there's some ex-pros in our squad and things, you know, so the standards that they're setting are really high, and although we're asking a lot, like, they just soak it up, they lap it up, and it's great. Like you said, now the physicality is at a much higher level than it was, you know, consistently. In the club game, I think there was, you know, week to week there'd be certain games that were really physical, whereas now, you know, you see with the amount of injuries as well, but the collisions every week and every match are way bigger. So no, it's definitely serving its purpose, and fingers crossed we'll see a lot of positive success stories from young guys doing really well off the back of it.
You're in your second year with the Bulls now. How do you feel your time here in the FOSROC Super6 has supported your development as a player?
It's allowed me to get some good game time at a pretty high level, with a good bunch of boys and a good coaching setup. It's really allowed me to push on.
Obviously this season you've got Pete Horn as your head coach here at Bulls. He's someone who's played at the highest level himself. How important is that for you, and what do you feel like you're learning working with someone like that?
Pete's a great coach, especially with him having played bit of 10, bit of inside centre. Understands the game really well, and as a 10 myself, helps me connect with him even more. Just that game understanding and that tactical element of the game really helps, and he likes the boys to play a bit, so I feel that means we've got a good balance in our attack, physicality up front, but lots of pace out in the backs as well.
I guess both individually and as that collective squad, with another tournament coming up, how do you feel playing in this Super6 Sprint Series has helped prepare you for that?
The main thing is just game time, because there's nothing like running out into the pitch. You can train, but you never quite get the same as playing games. So to have as many boys as we have done playing this has been really good.
And just lastly, there's one more game to go before the split in the Super6 Sprint Series, then later this summer it's into the Championship. What are your hopes, both individually and for Bulls as a squad?
Hopefully I can play as big a part as possible in the remainder of the season with the Bulls, and we can win the Sprint Series. And under 20s wise, again, try and play in all the games, play a big role and get some wins there too.
A revealing insight there into life with the Ayrshire Bulls through the eyes of Peter Horn and Christian Townsend. So back to Bridgehaugh, where Stirling County have turned the match around, having been put under the caution in the early stages to go 2 tries down. They've hit Heriots with 3 tries in the second half, and now they start this second half with the wind at their backs. Bruce Millar, all of a sudden we were dealing with a game which was going one way, and now it's in a completely different position.
And it will be very interesting to see what direction it goes in here. We assumed the team with the wind at their backs would build up a sizable lead in the first half, and then it would be just a case of could the side with the wind behind them in the second half make up that deficit. But as it was, it forced Stirling County to play a particular style of rugby that worked very well for them in that first half. Now can Heriots do the same, or will Stirling County run away with this? We said that they might have the better of or get the better of the kicking duel because they know the ground well, so it'll be interesting how they play with the wind at their tails.
So Stirling have the ball. They are in the blue, red and white. The referee is David Sutherland, who's referring to Stirling as the whites.
Advantage red, scrum advantage.
Reds, whites, he is referring to Heriots as the whites.
Scrum advantage over.
Sean Kennedy, who's been instrumental in most of what is good about Stirling's play. Trotter joins the line. They've got men over on the far side from where we are, and this time they're going to break the line straight away. The quickest possible start. 28 seconds of the second half, and no kicking. Straight through the hands, up the line, across the line.
That is the easiest of tries. Holden with the long pass out there to Logan Trotter, and again it looked like Heriot's had men on hand to make the tackles, but just didn't quite get there.
He didn't even have to use his winger because the door opened up. 28 seconds. That's a huge blow to Heriot's. They were caught flat-footed there.
Yes, I think when you see that again from a different angle, it looked like Jack Blaine maybe bit in, and then couldn't recover, and his fullback Ross Jones was outside marking the last man. Ross Jones had to race up as the ball went wide through Stirling County hands. So I think Jones will be a little bit annoyed at Blaine there, but of course that's maybe one of the downsides of bringing in the pro players. They won't train with the team. They don't know exactly what their teammates around about them are going to do, and then they can't react to each other quite the same as they might otherwise. So again, I'd like to see that once more, but I think Blaine probably with a slight defensive misread.
Yeah, and he was left off balance. The attempt from the stand side this time. You see, that's the difference for kicking with the wind from that side. You can use the wind to curl the ball in. So that's another 7 points very quickly to Stirling County, and confirmation. Just a quick look there. You can see where Blaine becomes stranded effectively on his heels. He had two men against him, and they just took the option of running through.
I think Niall Godsmart was there to make the tackle, but maybe I'm being overly critical of Blaine. Niall Godsmart maybe didn't communicate the fact that he was there to make the tackle, tell Blaine to stay out, so who knows whose fault it is. But either way, I think Heriot's Rugby had the men there to make the tackles, didn't, and Stirling County could not have had a better start to the second half.
And confirmation too that Craig Robertson has joined the fray for Stirling County. Number 22 is playing at standoff, replacing Ewan Cunningham. Had a relatively quiet game, but did what he had to do. I'm not quite sure if that's an injury replacement or tactical. But Kennedy is still there at number 9. McAndrew. So Heriot's with it all to do now. 24-12 all of a sudden, having been 2 tries to the good. Burst through by the hooker Linus, who's normally a bit more dynamic, but he's not had his hands on the ball so much.
Huge hit by Benedict Grant again.
He's been outstanding.
Stop red, stop red.
Who will send this to the Wallace Monument or thereabouts. He didn't get as much angle on it. He was very tight to the touchline.
I've not seen a change in lane, I've not seen it. But look, I know there's been a collision, I've not seen what's caused it. I'll be looking for it though. Lads, red, you're on the line. Take the line, please. White, and you come. Thank you.
So just to confirm, the referee is referring to Heriot's as the whites. Here they come again. They really have to get the next score to get themselves back into this game. Because I think Bruce used the phrase that Stirling could run away with the game if they really set their minds that they've got their bonus point already with 4 tries. So their place in the top 3 is looking pretty safe at the moment. We know already that Watsonians and Ayrshire Bulls have confirmed their places, so this was the one that was going to decide the 3rd place in the top 3 playoffs. Giving the ball plenty of air, but Godsmart was just a bit far out there to reach him.
Tackle, release 12.
Jamie Campbell thumped to the ground.
Knock the hand.
Holden, he's robbed him again. The thing is, they can all do it across the team. You know, they kind of play like wing forwards once they get in there.
Yes, I was going to say it's a recent thing. It's
Nine
not
had
very
lifted,
recent
he was
now.
through the middle and he played the arm.
I seem to remember
Red
Brian
stop.
O'Driscoll was as an outside
yeah.
centre. People saying, well, he was the first
man in.
man, if you like,
Yeah.
always to try and win that ball. And now you're right, absolutely anybody across the whole team. You get standoffs, winning turnovers
really
and,
good same
as
standoff,
well. Interesting seeing Heriot's going through phases there. We spoke at half time about how Heriot's looked at their best in the early stages of the first half when they went through phases, put the Stirling County defence under pressure. And again, I wonder if just playing into the wind will suit Heriot's. It'll force them to do that, and then we get back to what they did in the opening stages of this one.
I suspect that would have been Andrew Kelly's message: is get the ball in your hands and just run at them and try and carry it.
Set it up properly, take the space you need. We're not getting stability with that gap. How about that? You take the space you need, make sure you get it stable.
Get seconds! Here we go. All right. Get seconds. All right.
I love the way they tell the assistant referee what to look for. You know, they've all got their wee signals and their looks. And
set.
Solid scrum from Stirling. Off he goes. Benedict Grant. Look at that. It takes 2-3 players to get him down, and he's made 10-15 metres. Doesn't get it back though. Referee has to intervene, but Stirling still have.
Okay, you can then play it as a ruck.
He's a bundle of tricks, isn't he?
He's been absolutely superb. And I guess maybe the one thing you might like him to do is then be able to connect with somebody else there. We saw in the first half when he picked up from the base. I think he was probably looking to link with Fafita.
But that kind of player very often in a team, they can't keep up with him because he's unpredictable. He's everywhere, and they just can't stay with him.
Well, there is that. For a big man, he's very quick. I think it was Tagibe that was with him there, and in the end had to go in and clear out at the breakdown. Didn't quite win the ball back. It might have liked to have got the ball in his hands there.
Change there for Heriot's number 5 leaving the field, Sean Johnston, and it's Callum Anderson who's come on up. He's packing up at wing forward here, just below the camera. Number 20. I think it is 20, yeah.
I'll go your way.
Stirling now beginning, they can afford to be a little bit more adventurous. There's no reason to chase the game, they've already got the bonus point. They just need to keep control of the ball. They have the wind at their back, in their sails. Here they go. Chip over the top. Difficult ball, well taken by Murdo McAndrew, who was quick to see the gap opening. Because he's now stuck in the middle of that melee. That's him just getting to his feet now. And then he clears, finishes the job. And he manages to get, that's not a bad execution actually from difficult circumstances.
Substitution, red 5.
This is the best I've seen the Stirling County attack function. I think I mentioned in the build-up I found them a little bit predictable and one-dimensional in previous matches, and that's probably the benefit that Sean Kennedy brings you.
Yeah, variety
in terms of bringing that to it. The last little play from the scrum, I think, out into the midfield, little ball inside to the winger, and then they go wide. There's a little chip over the top. Very different attack formation from Stirling County today. Good to see.
Adam Sinclair, the former Heriot's player, has left the field for Stirling County, replaced by number 19 Max Williamson. So getting their injured players back for the business end of it. Here's some variety now, some running off the ball. That's a great move, and he's gone all the way, not quite, a foot short. Oh, and they've spilled it. They've held on to it. They think they've scored, but they haven't. Have they?
Well, I'm not sure. I would need to see
thought
this
that
again.
was short.
He was definitely short, and then I thought the referee penalised him for perhaps another movement on the ground.
My mistake. That's a fantastic run. So he's short at that point. Kennedy dots over the top. That's what he did. Yeah, Kennedy, but what a galloping run, look at that. And he's got, he's got Fifita screaming for it on his outside.
Thank you.
We need to see the play before that, way back on the Stirling County side of halfway, because there were three forwards involved, and each of the passes was just a little flick out the back door. So it was the quality of the passing, and then the support play, and they're bursting onto it at speed. And then eventually it was Hamish Ferguson who found himself the big blindside. Moved from the Nottingham Academy up to Curry back in 2019. Just found himself in open space and took off, and he was stopped about a foot short.
He's got a fair set of wheels in him, but I thought he had made it, but they managed to get him just at the very last second. And then let's see if he can use the wind again, Holden. As he managed to turn it round. That's brilliant, that's 2 in a row. That's an excellent kick as well, and all of a sudden the gap is beginning to rocket away from Heriot's. Stirling County 31 now, and Heriot's 12. Super kick.
That's a fantastic kick. Yes, he's got the wind behind him, but it's a very difficult wind to kick, and I hope we do get to see that that try again from a little bit further out, because I'd like to see which of the forwards were involved in the play. But Stirling County really growing into this game. I think we said at the 10 or 15 minute mark that they just hadn't got into it at all, but ever since then they have really sprung into life and driven, if you like, by Benedict Grant and Sean Kennedy.
I think they would have looked on going in at half time as a complete bonus. They would certainly have settled for that at the start of the game. So Cammy Fenton has come on for Michael Linus.
Carried back. Use 9. It's been carried
he hasn't
back.
Quite been as dynamic as before. Linus, I've seen him having fairly spectacular games for Heriots, but he didn't quite. Well, he hasn't been allowed to get in the game. And Gelderbloom is on for McAndrew at scrum half. McAndrew's had his hands full with Sean Kennedy today. Let's see if he's going to be able to make any difference to what's going on. Here's sprinkling of the substitutes used very early as well. We haven't hit the hour mark yet, but there are a number of players on both sides coming back from injury, and I'm sure the coaches are using them sparingly given that the playoffs are coming. So a penalty to Heriots.
It was a feature of the last game that when the changes were made, the game just
disintegrated in a way.
A little bit, yes, and we've seen that in previous weeks as well. Hopefully the same won't happen to this one.
Here's your try.
Yeah, so from the line out, and the ball kicked through there, gathered at the back. So they're a long way back, just between their 22 and 10 metre line. And from here, I think it was the little break up the touchline. You see the little ball out the back door, and the same here, two in a row, and both by the forwards. And again, nicely timed passing. Knew the man was coming in support, and he just waited and waited till he got there, timed the pass nicely. And it was a shame Ferguson didn't make it to the line, because that would have been a great, I speak as a forward myself, that would have been a great try for the forwards. But
Ferguson was one of the players. I think he got the second pass out the back door and then followed it, rather than just do it and stop. He carried on, which is a great sense of anticipation there.
Ball!
So Heriot's in the danger zone for once. It's taken them a while in this second half against the wind and against a purring attack. From Stirling, they're throwing all the options at us now. Passes out the back door and all sorts of stuff, but the work on the ground's been good, but they've got work to do here. Heriot's on a roll. And again, see how Kennedy's marshalling the defence. That's another thing he brings to the game.
There's been much more energy in the Stirling County defence in the second half.
Penalty advantage, 3 red, offside, 3 red,
penalty
offside,
to Heriot's.
hands past the breakdown.
And they're going to use the option though. Another pass out the back door, a bit ambitious, and it's just broken down. So he'll come back for the penalty. Just slightly forcing that one, Bruce. There was a whole string of men there. He could have just held on a wee bit.
It's shown that the backs can't quite execute that little flick out the back door as well as the forwards can. But you're right, you mentioned Sean Kenny. You could see him standing behind the breakdown, shouting at the forwards, organising them. And as I said there, I think there's just a bit more energy in it. But they sometimes, Stirling County, they'll send a man up and it just throws the whole defensive line out of shape.
Stirling, take the 5, please.
Heriot's to be able to get that ball beyond that man. I think it would have been dangerous for Stirling County, but they survived.
I do think they could have passed another couple of passes rather than try and be too clever.
Red 1 substitution.
John McKenna, loose head. He's done the business. He was playing with Lewis Skinner, 2 Falkirk men. The first time they were appearing together, and he's springing his step going off. And Brees comes on, more than capable replacement that, I'd say.
Time on. Goal line, please, Marcus.
He's been a regular starter. So that's not going to weaken Stirling in any shape or form. Let's see what Heriots have got to offer from short range.
That's a new advantage.
Another one coming. Now. Are we going to see a rare yellow card here? Oh no, they take it quickly, going for the line. He's over. I think that's a bit of smart thinking by... no, that was one of the forwards.
MacLennan, maybe.
I think it might have been. Yeah, if we watch him from... No, it's 17. It's...
Ian MacLennan.
It is MacLennan, yeah.
Yes, I think the loose head the tight head prop, but he's playing in the 17 jersey.
Yeah. He's been on from the start at number 17. But you see, Stirling turned their backs there. Look, few of them turned their backs, and he spotted that. Fair play to him. Fair play. So Stirling will be disappointed to have conceded that. So that's their 3rd try. But Heriots gets them, but I did say they had to score next. So let's see what they can make of it. A bit of smart thinking.
Great to see a tight head prop willing to do that. They normally just leave that to the scrum half and hope that he maybe passes it to you. And he made the right decision. As
he was in the right place.
Yes.
He was standing above the ball and he spotted it. And again, that's just great decision making. He took responsibility. Of course, if it goes wrong, he's the villain of the piece. But he didn't. He thundered over from 2 yards. Let's see. This is the difficult corner as I have it. See, yeah, it is astonishing the impact that wind has coming down through the castle end. Unfortunate, difficult. Anyway, Stirling County 31, Heriots now 17.
Still a sizable advantage that Stirling County have.
My hammies are getting tight as well. Good. Time on when you're ready.
So Callum Cruikshank has joined, number 20 for Stirling County. I think it was Hamish Ferguson who's gone off, but we'll check that. Yep, just confirmation there that Ferguson of the nearly try has done his bit for the cause as we approach the hour mark.
No, do not play the 9.
It's by no means done and dusted, but you have to see all the cards are stacked in Stirling's favour at the moment. And
knock on from blue. Red's always
see, this is back to your point of the substitutes coming on, and in the last 5-10 minutes we've had a whole wheen of them coming on, and all of a sudden the game's got broken. The referee's blowing for repeated penalties, knock-ons, and it's not the same game.
And it shouldn't happen, I don't think, at this level. They've got to find a way of allowing the game to still continue to flow. Because you maybe get a minute or two sometimes at international level, but it generally continues on, and in fact you get an impact from the substitutions, and we seem to be getting the opposite effect here at
they're not integrated into the flow of the game at the same point or in the same way. So confirmation there also that Stirling have their try bonus point, and if they manage to sustain any sort of lead of this level, they will for sure be in the top 3. Kennedy bit high with that one. Your Trotter, He's got a great fend as well, and look at him when he goes. He's just unstoppable, and he makes it look so easy. Try number 6 for Stirling through Logan Trotter. No surprise at the end of the day.
He just glides across the ground. You could see the grin on his face. The ball there from Holden, who's distributed well, and just a little step and the fend on Blaine, the Edinburgh professional. And so he looked inside, but he knew he was over himself, and he is in absolutely wonderful form, enjoying his rugby as well. You see there, he just a little shimmy inside and out, stood up the Heriot's winger.
He knew from the point he had the double. It was not just once, he did it twice. And he knew from that, as you say, the smile said it all. And he's enjoying his rugby, and so is Ratu, obviously. Stirling 36, 17 for the visitors, and a chance for 2 more from that favourite corner. Let's see if he can make it 3 in a row. He's always kicking it from the same spot, so he needs the same technique.
Well, it's Logan Trotter. Well, it's Jack Blaine going off now. I think I'm right to say he's got 19 appearances, 4 tries for Edinburgh. So he's an experienced. He's still very young, but he's an experienced winger at that professional level, and just got tied in knots by Logan Trotter. Yeah,
and also the previous one, he was exposed. Not his fault, but exposed. Here's the kick. There's the 2 flags, 3 in a row from Marcus Holden. Superb display of kicking in the wind, using it cleverly and spectacularly well to good effect as we pass the hour mark. Stirling County lead by 38 points now to Heriot's 17.
Certainly not the score I was expecting in this game at the hour mark, especially with Heriot's leading 12-0 in the early stages.
Backwards from blue.
Remarkable turn in fortunes.
Second one from red, knock on.
So 6 tries to the good, Stirling.
Scrum advantage over.
Just want to keep control of the game now.
Tackle, release, tackle.
Playing the Heriot's half if possible.
Stripped.
Callum Anderson's been robbed. Here's Tangivi. Just takes it to ground. Kennedy spots the gap. And he's got the bounce. There's bags of experience now.
Experience, but it was him that ripped the ball as well.
Yeah.
Really pulling the strings for Stirling County here.
Yeah.
They're piling forward there. They thought there was an early quick move on, but not to be.
13 as well, Niall, 13, sub.
13
sub.
It's Robert Kay.
13.
Didn't get a chance to get into the game much. Stirling haven't given them any opportunity really. It's been a tough gig for these young fellas. Hiddleston is on for Fraser in Stirling County colours.
Just hold the ball.
It's another experienced replacement.
Subs coming everywhere.
The referee knows the commentator's feeling. There's subs coming on everywhere, he says.
Maul! That's off the line of touch. Just don't change.
They're off and running now. Ambling forward. Kennedy wants his mitts on it. Here he goes. Commits the defence. Tangivi. Trotter.
Tackle! Tackle! Knees on the ground. There you go, back foot, thank you.
They're hungry for more. 6 tries, not enough.
It's all very lateral there, easy for the Heriot's defence.
Static. Pow of the footballing skills. He hasn't had a chance to repeat the feat. Great run in. They're almost under the posts. Benedict Grant just shepherding them homewards here towards the Wallace Monument. Takes it on himself. He's on his back. Kennedy has it. He dunted one over. He slipped over the top the last time.
Short.
He hands it over. They're short. Not anymore. Not anymore, they're not, because it's Kennedy again. Sean Kennedy with his second score. Try number 7 and number 2 for Kennedy.
Just playing through the forwards initially, going very close. Heriot's defence doing well to keep them out. Again, just running out of numbers. I think it was Niall Godsmart who tried to come in and shut that one down. And Sean Kennedy over for his second. Their initial attack when they went wide, as I said in commentary, was just a bit too lateral, but they kept a hold of the ball and then went through the phases. It's always very difficult defending that close to the line. To be honest, you expected one of the forwards to rumble over, but not surprising to see Sean Kennedy.
But again, that's the unpredictable nature of his game, isn't it? And that's the hallmark of a good scrum half, without doubt. Callum Norrie is the latest replacement for Lewis Skinner as Stirling ring the changes and get their injured players back with game time. And let's see what Marcus Holden does from the other side this time. Slightly more difficult, I'd say, but he needs to aim for the left-hand post. There you go. Sweet as a nut. He really has kicked well this afternoon in conditions which are much more difficult, I think, than the camera will show, because the wind is very, very tricky at Bridgehaugh.
You can see how much he's putting into that to try and keep the ball on a straight line. It has been a wonderful display of kicking.
So 45 points to Stirling now. Heriot's 17. 15 minutes left, and they really need to try and limit the damage now. Heriot's.
Stop, Red! Stop! Chase.
Now they're beginning to run the game. Difficult take for Ian Wilson there, but he managed to knock it backwards.
Wait!
Trying to get some sort of run. Oh, and he spilled it. Spilled it. But the attack continues. A good break now. Oh, just forcing the pass, but Gelderblom had it and then lost it. Gives Stirling the chance. It must be becoming a horror movie for the Heriot's defenders now, because every time Stirling get the ball, they're just going to give it a run. And Heriot's are tiring.
9 advantage is over. For me, there's no attempt to wrap. Okay.
So we have a change at scrum half for Stirling. It would appear they didn't want Sean Kennedy to get his hat-trick, so they've replaced him with young Finlay Burgess. It's pretty much ideal to bring, I think he's 18, isn't he, to bring somebody like that on in the driving seat in a game like this. Yes, time.
He started the first game alongside Ewan Cunningham, and I feared for them about an 18 and a 19-year-old at half back, and they coped admirably. But I think he'll be quite happy to come on now with the game in the bag and behind a forward pack. It's playing very well. Heriot's, you could see them starting to get into a bit of shape there again when they got possession and making ground, using their runners, but they just can't keep a hold of the ball for enough phases to trouble that Stirling County defence.
Well, I wouldn't, I know, reflecting on what we said earlier in the game, I don't think either of us would have thought, certainly from the start of the game, that the score would end up in this kind of proportion. Never mind the fact that one team is going to beat the other one, but by this margin, it's just a huge win for Stirling. This will be a huge confidence booster for them, because they are clearly getting back into the frame. Whether they have the professionals in the team as they go to the playoffs remains to be seen. It'll be interesting to see how many of them they retain.
Expect the same standards as the last front row. Okay.
Heriot's, they won their first 2 games.
Yeah.
They beat the Southern Knights and the Boroughmuir Bears. They only narrowly were beaten by the Ayrshire Bulls.
Yeah.
They led against Watsonians a fortnight ago. Watsonians eventually running away with it, but they're a good side and they've been made to look
ordinary.
Pretty ordinary, here it has to be said, by Stirling County. This is the best performance, no doubt, by Stirling County of the season so far.
Yeah. And there were, I mean, Boroughmuir Bears beat them fair and square that night. They played them exceptionally well. They played the conditions, and tactically they got it absolutely spot on. But there were a number of today's Stirling team who weren't there. And I think that is a big difference.
Yes, there are some key individuals in that, or in today's Stirling County side, that make a huge difference to the performance of the whole team. And as you just said there, it'll be very interesting to see if they're available in the as well, they're not playoffs, in the post-split fixtures, or not, and what difference that makes. Because different kettle of fish, I think, playing the Ayrshire Bulls and Watsonians.
Crouch! Bind!
Yeah, these are mouth-watering contests still to come. Top three playing amongst each other, and the second tier playing amongst themselves as well in the final games in the FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series. Just throwing up all the sorts of talking points we need and want in terms of player development, even referee development. We've been talking about it as well. The whole game plan and challenges like how to deal with the substitutes or the replacements. And then you have the more experienced players like Holden, who don't always get it right.
And I thought they might have kicked more in this second half.
They haven't had to, though.
No, exactly, no. But
they haven't had to.
And it probably was a good option there, but execution just often, just needed to get that into touch in the.
We have an
the
injury
22.
and there's a substitution. One blue substitution. Cheers. Wait.
Benedict Grant, not surprisingly, has hurt something because he's thrown his body into everything.
He's got a big bruise there that could be a bigger bruise tomorrow.
On a boot in the ribs.
I'm not a doctor, you are.
I know that's why I'm looking.
I'm just asking if you're here to stay.
He's been very physical. If he'd like to bring anything else to his game, there have been 2 or 3 occasions when his hands have let him down. He's either opted not to pass or he has passed very inaccurately. And I think if he was to, I'm making that judgment on the basis of one game. I think if he was to add that to his game,
this is an interesting, just picking up the bits of this. This is the doctor intervening on the basis of somebody on the touchline thinking there might be an issue about a tackle, that he may be suffering in some way, and that for his own good he might be better to go off. But now they're in the position they have no subs left.
Stephen, this player is, the doctor's taking this player off, okay? There's no HIA at Super 6.
So there's the referee clarifying it for everyone. The doctor is insisting, it's his judgment that the player needs to leave the field, which is fair enough, he's perfectly right to do that. There is no HIA in Super 6, so I reckon they're going to have to play with 14.
Okay, you're on the mark.
Oh no, here we are.
Yes.
Yeah, they can bring somebody on there.
Time on.
And it's a funny one. I mean, you absolutely, for the player's own good, you want the doctor to intervene there, because players are often not good at making the right decision in the heat of the moment. However, he was saying he got a boot in the ribs there, and you can see where he's holding. I'm not sure that there was an issue. Maybe the coaching staff as well are speaking to the doctor, saying just get him off. He's been superb. Let's just look after him for the.
He's clearly trying to make the case himself. He was fine, but then again, that's the issue, isn't it? It's not always fine. So Hamish Ferguson has come back on. That's what they've done to replace Benedict Grant, who might or might not feature in your deliberations for the FOSROC Super 6 Player of the Match. But then I'm only speculating.
He is indeed on my list.
17 blue.
But it's a good example there of the referee and the doctor and the player, that kind of interaction, where there was a controversial one recently. Was an England under-21 doctor took a contentious decision and there was an inquiry and all the rest of it. But there, the doctor was very firm. And although Grant looked to be okay and all the rest of it, he made a decision. There's another substitution for Heriot, leaving the field, number 17. I think I saw MacLennan going off. So we'll check that out. There's a couple of players down. All back on their feet now. Just under 10 minutes left. Stirling County lead by 45 points with 7 tries to Heriot's 17. 3 tries. Here they go, though. They have a break on the stand side, and the 8 is going the whole way. Rory Leishman sets the benchmark and gets the losing bonus for the 4 tries. So a bit of a mistake here. Maybe Stirling guilty of forcing the game. Logan Trotter spilled it, and he saw the gap. Off he went.
I think you're right. Logan Trotter just trying to force it when he didn't need to. Offloaded off the ground, and it ended up in Heriot's hands. And the captain, Rory Leishman, very versatile second row blindside number 8 today. He showed great pace there, and he's still looking around him as well for support. He didn't need it in the end, and just a consolation for them. I think even the losing bonus point, obviously, it's
well, they deserve that, to be fair to them.
They do.
Yeah, they do, although it's not a great outcome. At the end of the day, they'll be bitterly disappointed with the score at the end, whatever it ends up as. But I'm making an assumption here that the conversion was missed because we didn't see it.
I think you're right.
We didn't see the conversion, and all of a sudden we've got the, okay, we can confirm that the conversion was not successful. So the score is Stirling 45, Heriot's 22, and we've got 7.5 minutes left, so you can deliberate on your big decision that you have to make in the next few minutes or so before the end of the game. Good rumble by
No, now you're off.
Sedak. He's had a quiet game again. He's not been allowed into the game. Polish international. Stirling have moved up the field for once in a while. It might be maybe a target of the 50 points. I don't know if they really want to rub it in, but all the points do get added on. They carry over into the remaining series of matches. And that was clarified over the last day or two, just so that everybody knew where they were. Dungivi drags him towards the touchline. Gilderbloom's been a bit quicker, a bit more Sean Kennedy-like round the base of the scrum and the broken play. He's got the same kind of attitude, nippy.
Yes, he's been good to the Scotland under-20 international Gilderbloom since he came on.
They're beginning to blow.
Injury either side.
In fact, there's an injury on both sides here.
Okay, happy. Let's give it a white, we're good. Good, Addy. Okay. Yeah, water off, lads, water off. Let's go, water off.
Water off, and this is all going to change. Of course, we've been reading this week that the new advice, if we can put it that way, on the blitz of water carriers and coaches and all sorts that come on, which really is a disruptive influence in the game, in my view.
100% agree, yes, and teams no doubt use it to slow the pace of the game down when they need it to. I think there was the incident, was that in the World Cup, involving South Africa, which probably initiated it. Everybody wanted to look at it, but there were issues before that. And
well, you're talking about issues just to allow them to sort this out. There's an incident today at Toulouse in where the England against Argentina, I think, ran the whole length of the field and refused to touch the ball down, just stood at the goals wanting the Argentinians to come and force him, and he ran the clock down. I don't know how long he did it for, but it is a quite amazing piece of tactical gamesmanship, which I think is going to cause a huge storm. The Argentinians just refused to do it, and the clock ran out and the game was finished, I think.
It's something you see a lot in the Sevens game, but and it would be a fairly straightforward tweak to the laws to outlaw that.
Oh, I think that one will be changed, because it was a dreadful look. But it's on a par with the water carriers and things that are just not clever about some of.
You get Heriot's good.
Let's do man of the match while we're at the FOSROC Super 6 man of the match. Your choice?
Well, I went with Benedict Grant. I think unsurprisingly.
Well, there's a surprise. No wonder. That's a good choice. What a game.
From the first kickoff, he caught the first kickoff, and we saw what how he intended going on. You see him there, just in the turning around, speaking to his teammates behind him with the ponytail.
Oh, and he stands up right on cue.
But he's a physical specimen. You can see him, the former Mar player. Sean Kennedy was in my thoughts as well, but he really marshalled it well. But I could not look past Benedict Grant.
I think you're absolutely spot on. And if we'd only cued him, he could have taken a bow there just to complete the job. He's an all-action number 8. He's exactly what you want. And, it must be a coach's dream. Give it to Benedict. He'll make us 20 yards or whatever.
But the energy levels for a big guy like that as well, and defensively so as well. He's not one of these guys that just hangs back and says, right, give me the ball when we've got it, and I'll let everybody else do the tackling. He's been involved in the defensive effort as well.
And for all that he went off under doctor's advice, he certainly was keen. He looked as if he could have played another 20 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever. He was just enjoying himself, and that's part of it, yeah.
Indeed.
So, a worthy winner of the FOSROC Super 6 Player of the Match award for today, Benedict Grant, the number 8 from Stirling County. Here come Heriots. They're not finished yet. They've got 4.5 minutes. They've got 5 metres to go. Stirling doing their best, but they've broken again. They've conceded a couple of tries at this range that they will be disappointed about, and that's another one because this time it's number 7 again. It's Ian Wilson who's repeated actually pretty much what he did in the first half.
He has indeed. I think this is more plan A, and they kept it tight in the first half. He broke away when he saw the gap appear in the defensive line. This occasion, he just allowed the maul to rumble forward and touch down. As we said earlier, it's normally the hooker that profits from these situations, but they're obviously more comfortable with Ian Wilson, the open side flanker, in possession and control of the ball.
So, I suppose the first question is, are Stirling coach is going to be disappointed about the disintegration of the defence a couple of times, and is it a case of them just taking their foot off the pedal?
I think they'll be disappointed. I mean, I suppose a more general point, if I may first, in that we've seen, I spoke about it in the previous game, seen lots of situations today and in previous weeks where teams have kicked to the corner and I think should have been driving over. It's a very difficult thing to defend, and I don't think we saw any from about 6 attempts in the first game, and that's the first successful one today. Yep. So you could, from that point of view, you could say, well, that's Stirling County will be disappointed that they're the only side to allow a team to kind of rumble over. But on the other hand, we've got Heriot's the only side to do that. Maybe just to do it properly.
And just confirmation, interesting tactic, presumably just to speed the game up. Bruce Houston trying the drop goal from my difficult corner. He didn't have any more success than Marcus Holden did. Here we are. This is just to prove that still the breeze is just drifting the ball away. You see it barely reaches the goal line. So it is difficult. It's nobody's fault. It's just a huge challenge from that particular corner. So to summarise, and we'll have a better look at things later on, Bruce, it's a fair reflection really on Stirling's adaptability and their execution.
I think that's a fair summary, yes. Heriots have been disappointing for me today. They scored 2 early tries, but Stirling took a while to settle, came back into it. I think they've just had more energy than Heriots today. Their attack shape has been the best that I've seen it so far in the 5 games. Much more variety in their attack. I was maybe sounded a bit critical in the build up to this. I felt they were a bit one-dimensional the way they used the forwards. Sean Kennedy has helped in that respect, I have no doubt, but I think all round a huge improvement in the Stirling County performance.
It is, and it augurs well for the remaining matches. And I reckon, I've just done a quick calculation here, I reckon they've moved into second place with this win on 18 points, but we'll get our gurus, our wizards will sort that out for us for the end of the match, but that's what it looks like. So that would be this has been a huge weekend for them. And for all that they've lost, Heriots have still managed to score 5 tries. You know. So we'll have a look at, we'll work out the permutations of who could be meeting whom in these games as we go forward. And we'll see if we can get our brains to cope with that before the end of the game. But here come Heriots, they're not done. They're giving it a go. They spilled it, it's gone backwards though, the referee's happy.
Never on ball, releasing the ground.
They could run from here. We're in the final minute of regular time. Fair play to Heriots for having stuck to what has been, for parts of the second half, quite a grim period where they were conceding and leaking tries of all sorts. But here they go on the far side again. It's a great little chip ahead, but this could be dangerous though because it's landed in Trotter's arms. And that's the last thing they want as the clock teeters towards 80 minutes. I think they're just, the referee's been told that the clock is now finished and we run it over time. He's happy, and I think Stirling are happy to have the ball directed towards the stand, and the referee, David Sutherland, has blown for no side, and it's been a handsome and convincing victory for Stirling against a disappointing, it has to be said, Heriot side over the piece. They flattered to deceive perhaps in the first 20 minutes when they took a 2-try-to-nothing lead. The outstanding Benedict Grant at number 8 there. He was our FOSROC Super6 player of the match. And the final score at Bridgehaugh is Stirling County 45, Heriots Rugby 27. So from the point Heriots took the lead, they disappointed. It's as simple as that.
I think there's not much more to say than that. They had a chance at that stage to really take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think I said maybe at half time that I felt if they just kept a hold of the ball and went through phases at that stage in the first half, the Stirling County defence was organising, I felt, quite slowly as they were folding round the corner. Heriots were getting their attacking pods in position much more quickly, and I think if they had just kept a hold of the ball, kept getting themselves into the territory in the Stirling County 22, they would have built up a much more sizable lead. But as it was, Stirling County came back into it, played brilliantly into the wind, it has to be said.
Yeah.
In a way, the only way they could play into the wind, led at half time, and I think that just took the life out of Heriots, and they never really recovered, but still seemed very flat was my description of them. I can't quite put my finger on why that would be.
Yeah, they didn't have any sort of reaction they could bring to the fact that they were all of a sudden on their heels, and whether is that a leadership issue, is it a tactical issue, is it the fact that Stirling had so much of a grip and Sean Kennedy ran the game?
I think probably let's give Stirling County the credit and say that was the reason. Heriots did seem to change their game plan a bit when I felt that they ought not to when it got to 12-all.
They needed to go on.
They needed to go on, and they could still have kicked if they wanted to, and that's what they had opted to do, I think, and get the ball into the 22 and play from there. But they just seemed to panic a little bit and change their approach, and it didn't work for them.
Well, let's see how the game did develop then. The pictures tell the story. We can dress it up in all the words we want, but we want to see the scores, because that's what happened. The first one came remarkably easy for Heriots, and it came in early, 7 minutes, and we were disappointed at this stage with Stirling's defence.
We were. When you watch that again, I think Stirling probably expected Heriots to keep this tight, because they had the forwards coming around the corner, you can see there. I think they probably expected them to go there. They went wide instead, which was good vision, saw where the space was, but either way, that last tackle I think probably should have been better.
Yeah, he was closer to the line, and then they rumbled on, and a fantastic piece of opportunism here, the second score from Ian Wilson.
Yes, good driving maul there, and we expected, and I think Stirling County probably expected him to keep that tight. Wilson thought otherwise. He saw where the space was, broke away. Good try.
And there we have it, and there's your man of the match. We'll just interrupt our analysis of the game, and I think the question is, where's my medal at the moment, because he's heading down into the corner there. He looks fresh enough to do another 80 minutes, doesn't he? And the captain there, Marcus Holden, one of the vice captains, I think, going with him. But he was a worthy winner. I know Sean Kennedy pushed him quite close, but great choice, and just a fine player, isn't he?
Fantastic player, yes, and his only frustration will be that he got dragged off when he was clearly arguing with the doctor that he didn't need to. And as I mentioned, there are one or two areas that he might want to work on, and it would take him to a whole new level. But he's quite a physical specimen. You could see that in his ball carrying today, and yes, a fairly straightforward, simple choice as our FOSROC Super6 player of the match. And
he carries his mouth guard very, very well when he's not using it. I've not seen that before, but fair play to him. He looks like quite a character as well, doesn't he?
I think he will be.
Yeah, back to the analysis, though. Stirling came back into it, and it was Kennedy who kind of sparked it, didn't he? Almost accidentally, with that little pass that didn't come off.
Yeah, little break there, tried to keep the ball alive, and he was just looking for somebody to run off him. I think as he got hit in the tackle there, it almost dislodged the ball, and he threw it, and it just bounced up nicely for James Pow to kick that one through for his winger.
Yeah, and then they started to clock up the kicks, although it was difficult. But again, they went in a bit of a roll from here on in. Lewis Skinner was the next scorer, very quick order.
And you could see, you mentioned it in commentary, Sean Kennedy looked to the left, I think that maybe forced a couple more Heriot's players to fold round, because they basically had 4 men standing in a 5 metre channel against two Stirling County players. You can see it there, they overreact, and when they go back the other way, there's actually a huge space outside Chris Keane, should they have needed to move it further, but he had the power to go over, did the big man.
Yeah, Fifita was the obvious man to go to, and that's the ploy. He didn't do it, but then this was a missed interception, really, that got Fifita running, and look at the options he had.
Yes, 3 guys with him. He picked the right one, and he timed his pass nicely. But as we said at the time, Ian Wilson will be a bit annoyed at his decision to come out there, and he wasn't really that close.
And he is the last man you would want thundering down the left-hand side there.
I thought he might have stepped off his left foot and tried to go past Ross Jones, but he made the right decision.
Yeah, we're not sure the one where he made the wrong decision, but this was another great try. They put it through the hands, and there was some galloping running here. It was just spectacular stuff at this stage.
Yeah, and it's fairly straightforward, just through the hands, and then on came the gas out wide. We mentioned maybe a bit too critical of Jack Blaine. I think mix up in communication between him and Niall Godsmark, who both went for the same man basically. I think Niall Godsmark didn't push him out. Blaine stepped in just for half a second, which was enough to leave a space outside him.
And a word on Marcus Holden's kicking in the second half, exemplary.
His kicking was superb. We'll come back to in a second, because here was the
forwards
nearly try. It was the little flicks out the back door further upfield.
Yeah.
As this was started around, I think, midway between the 22 and 10 metre line, and great interplay there between the forwards.
He had his name in highlights here, and he just came up a foot short. Poor Hamish Ferguson. But then they made it, Kennedy.
But just you mentioned just right on cue there as he comes back on screen, Marcus Holden, his kicking in very difficult conditions was superb, but he brought more than that to the game as well. His distribution was very good at inside centre.
So this was about a quick thinking that got Heriot's a bit of hope. Quick take, not exactly what you would have expected, but you saw the opportunity. MacLennan.
Yeah, it looks fairly straightforward, but I was always terrified to try those little tap-in because in case I knocked the ball on.
And this is classic Trotter.
I mean, he's just, as I think I said at the time, he glides.
Yeah.
And he must be a nightmare. And he stood up, Jack Blaine. Look at the footwork there. And then just got the hand out. Blaine will be disappointed with that. You can see in the background there. And Trotter knew as soon as he'd stepped outside him, the grin on his face. He's really enjoying his rugby, and rightly so.
Then the metronomic Holden. He just loved it. He was knocking them over for fun. But this was well constructed, patient effort, and typical. Good score.
Yes, you just keep playing through the forwards there, which is the way most teams do that. There will be a gap appears somewhere, and the number 9 is usually the guy that is most aware there if there's a gap appears.
That was try number 5 on 50 minutes, and they were home and hosed by then. It was quite clear that they had the game under control. They had the game won, and they took their eye off the ball on occasion. They won't be too pleased about this. This was a great score from Rory Leishman.
It was, yes, but again, just forcing it. I think you said in commentary, Logan Trotter, he didn't need to offload that. You see, because I think bounced off the head, in fact, there of Callum Cruikshank with the blue headgear on. as he was obviously expecting to go in and clear the ruck and just play from there, and it just ended up in the hands of Rory Leishman, who raced away, showed good pace.
And they had the final word, Ian Wilson with his second score, and Heriot's 5th try, remarkably, in the scoreline.
And I think you're right, you mentioned would Stirling County be a bit disappointed with their Mull defence. It did break up a bit there, so that's perhaps something that they will look at, because after the split, facing teams like Watsonians and Ayrshire Bulls, who have got good driving lineouts, it's something they might want to work on.
So here's the weekend's scores in the Super 6 Sprint Series, and I'm going to hand over rapidly, fairly quickly, to you to sort this all out in terms of the implications. Good wins for Boroughmuir Bears, Southern Knights continuing to find it tough there, 31-18. Ayrshire Bulls and Watsonians, a remarkable match there where Watsonians led handsomely at half time and then failed to score in the second half, and Ayrshire Bulls almost got back at them, 26-29, as we've seen, as we've just completed here at Bridgehaugh. Stirling County 45 with 7 tries, and Heriot's 27 with 5 tries. So a bit of a try fest, 12 tries in all. What a fantastic weekend of rugby.
It's been absolutely superb, and the Super 6 Sprint, the FOSROC Super 6 Sprint Series has never let us down. Round 5, the teams have got better every week, and as we said, the table now splits into a top 3 and a bottom 3. So if we have
and here you have it, right on cue. The split, as they say, gives us a top 3 and a bottom 3 if we can split the 6. And there we have Watsonians, Stirling and Ayrshire in 1st, 2nd and 3rd, and that means that...
if I have got this right,
yep.
So we on the weekend of 27th and 28th May, we'll have a game on the Friday night for you. We'll have a game on the Saturday. So on the 27th of May, we will have 2nd against 3rd, which is
Stirling.
Stirling County against the Ayrshire Bulls. And in the bottom half, we shall have 5th against 6th, which is Heriot's Rugby against Southern Knights.
Okay, so that's the first series of these matches, then the first section of them.
Yes, and then we're into June, and the 3rd of June at the top half, 3rd will play first, so the Ayrshire Bulls will host Watsonians, so a repeat of our earlier match this afternoon, while at the bottom half it will be 6 against 4, so Southern Knights will host the Boroughmuir Bears.
And then
our final...
You're doing well so far.
I was hoping that I'm doing well. We might find it's completely different to this.
I think you're right so far.
On the weekend of the 10th of June,
Friday night.
The Friday night, I think that will be the big one. The 1st against 2nd, so that'll be Watsonians against Stirling County. And then on the Saturday we'll have 4th against 5th, Boroughmuir Bears against Heriot's Rugby.
And one important point that we did mention earlier, but just to re-emphasise that the points accrued in the table as it stands are added on, they carry on. So they build on that through these games post-split.
They do indeed. So Heriot's Rugby's 5 from 5, the great work they've done to build up a 5 points advantage at the top. That the two chasing teams have somehow got to claw that back, which will be difficult. But I think we've seen today that anybody can beat anybody else. I mean, just very quickly looking back at Stirling County, I felt that whoever won today and went into 3rd or 2nd, as it turns out, Stirling County, because of their bonus point, would have probably been the 3rd best side in the top, and it would be between Watsonians Rugby and Ayrshire Bulls. But on the evidence of what I've watched there, I've changed my mind, and Stirling County have got every chance at the top there. And just quickly looking at their first 2 results, round 1 and round 2, they were beaten by 2 points at Myerside, and then they beat the Ayrshire Bulls at Bridgehaugh, so they've shown that they are at that stage even were on a par with those 2 teams, and I think they've come on leaps and bounds today.
And they have come on at the right time. Their time, it's like a horse race where they come up on the barrier, and their timing is there. But the big question has got to be, can anyone stop Watsonians? Go on, put your neck on the line.
Well, I think probably not, but the fact that Stirling County's bonus point today has seen them leapfrog the Ayrshire Bulls changes just who has home advantage. So it's Watsonians now have to go to the Bulls as opposed to hosting them. So that could make a difference, just the way that has fallen.
But it's just a great finish, isn't it? I mean, this is exactly the idea behind the split, is to create meaningful games, and games that will be of benefit to these teams when they come back to the FOSROC Super 6 series in the autumn or the late summer.
That's exactly right. It's still, of course, they want to win this, but it allows them to develop their game plan, their players, and their understanding of it. And the bottom half, I mean, Heriot's, they'll be disappointed with their performance today, but they'll also be disappointed that they've ended up in that bottom three, having sat, I think they were second top of the table after the first couple of rounds. But it's now a hard sell for the coach to say, well, these are still meaningful fixtures at the bottom. You're playing for fourth place. But they will have half an eye still towards the later, well, the season proper, if you like, and developing themselves. So there are no meaningless games, that's for sure.
Bruce, it's been a pleasure to have your company all afternoon. You've put in a remarkable shift with a double header today. It's been a tough gig, but loads of tries. I've lost count of how many tries you've had all together, but you've contributed enormously to our coverage over the two matches. Thank you very much. So it's been a pleasure to bring these matches to you today again on the FOSROC Super 6 series. Join us again for the remaining post-split matches, and with anyone with an eye to the clock, in about 5 or 7 minutes or so, events at BT Murrayfield will probably be grabbing everyone's attention. From everyone involved in our matches today and last night, have a good weekend.